kind of unusual from our point of view to, I guess, you guys doing a film session without doing practice stuff afterwards? Was that the plan coming into today, or like, was that a change of plans based on what happened last night?
Yeah, we don't really have a plan until the game happens. You never know. It could go to triple overtime. We knew we were going to see the team today. But what that looks like is always mapped out after the game. And we felt like today it was based on, some of the physical exertion that we've had lately with games and practices, that we've wanted to make today more of a mental day, and watch a lot of film and have a lot of discussion with the team as we try to continue to, build our bond as a group, and kind of collective understanding of what we're trying to do.
Cody said that it was like an open discussion film session.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of stood out to you from what the players were saying? Like what kind of stood out to you?
I think they have a recognition of what's going on. I think when you watch the film, as a group, nobody makes excuses. Nobody is pointing fingers at their teammates. I think it was a really healthy day of everybody, myself included, sort of taking their piece of responsibility for last night. And again, a lot of it is just rooted in us trying to all get on the same page. We have a lot of new guys. We have a lot of young guys. And so we're just trying to figure out our communication style as a group, and who talks when, and how we're going to solve problems. But a big part of today was kind of everybody recognizing that we all play a part every single night. We don't rely on one person to carry us, and so everybody has to do their job every day. And it's good to get them to talk. It's different. It's a different level of engagement when you're participating in the conversation. I think the lecture style coaching gets really stale, and it is hard to tell at times like how engaged they are or paying attention if they never have to speak. And so pretty much everybody on the team said something today. I thought it was great.
Was that kind of open forum situation for a film session helpful in getting like the introverts on the team to be engaged?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the conversation, it always starts a little bit slow. People are sort of tiptoeing, and I think for us to get where we want to go, we've got to strip some of that down and have the ability to openly communicate with each other where we don't feel like we have to make every message neat and tidy. But it's definitely good for the introverts of the group to speak up in front of their teammates and to see that speaking up's okay and you don't get cracked for doing it. So I thought today was a really good day for our team. And we felt like it made the most sense to attack today that way as opposed to trying to cobble together a practice.
I think you said last night, you think the coaches probably will have about 8 things or whatever to take away from last night, but you kind of want to bottle it down to 3 that can be actionable.
Mm-hmm.
What were kind of the actionable things you guys looked at and talked about specifically just now?
Competitiveness and urgency. The third one would be body language. Scheme doesn't matter if you don't play hard. Nothing's going to work if you go half speed. And the games are way too long, and the season is way too long to overreact to everything that doesn't go our way. The body language piece is a big deal for us as a group. We do not want to be a team that complains or begs for calls or is constantly feeling like you're being wronged. This league has has an element to it where it's, you got to go and take it. Like, nobody's going to give it to you. Nobody's going to roll out the red carpet for you. We need to develop that mindset as a group every night that we should not expect anything. We shouldn't ask for anything. We need to go out and play really hard as a team, and we need to be able to navigate the hard moments, because ultimately, to go where we want to go as a team and as an organization, it's ugly. The playoffs is nasty, and nobody feels good physically, and you're tired, and you're emotionally drained, and the stress goes up when you're physically exhausted. And so how are we going to deal with the tough moments? This is very small scale. Middle of the second quarter, we have 2 turnovers, and it looks like the world's ending. Like, we need to adjust our body language as a team. And so we're trying to address that now. And, like, when we talk about building habits, it's not just dribbling and shooting and screening and guarding pick and roll. Like, there are habits of competition that we have to develop as well. Because the games are really hard, and it's a game of runs, and there's always pockets in a game that don't go your way. And so we felt like addressing the competitiveness, the urgency, and the body language today was most important.
You said that everyone recognized what was going on. No one made any excuses. And you can point that out. People can see that time and time again watching film. But when it comes to execution, at the end of the day, does that just come from the players? You can only do so much, or how does that?
I mean, it's not just on them. I think I always, and we always as a staff, have to do a good job of recognizing how we're being guarded in certain actions, what's generating good shots and what's not. And so that piece is on us. I think as it relates to the urgency and the competitiveness piece, I felt like there were just so many times last night where they beat us to the spot. We're running a screen, they beat us to the spot. We're trying to get over a screen, they beat us to the spot. And that's where, like, the understanding of what we're trying to do has to be coupled with the urgency and execution of it. Nothing's going to work if we go half speed and they bump us off our spot. I feel like we spent half the game last night on 1 foot, trying to catch our balance just because we got run off our line. And on the other end, they ran around very freely. The third quarter, they scored 38 points. We committed no fouls in the quarter. That's almost impossible. Like, we didn't bump into one person. We didn't chop one person's arm. Like, that's really hard to do in a 12-minute stretch, especially when they score 38 points. And so we highlighted those things with the team because those are things that we can control every day. Like, there's as coaches, we always talk about we got to control what we can control. And, like, our urgency to beat them to the spot and to be physical when we're cutting, screening, trying to execute our offense, like, those things we can control. Ball going in, you can't always control. The guys are trying to make every shot. I'm never going to get mad about a missed shot. I know they're not trying to miss. So we've got to really emphasize with our group right now, like, these are the things that we can definitely control every night, and we've got to hold ourselves to a much, much higher standard.
How often do you have this length of a film session, like just minute-wise?
That's a great question. It's not never. I mean, it's not like an alarm bell goes off when it happens. It's more like we just chose today, the team's going to be here for an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes. A lot of days that's physical on the court, and today we wanted to make it more mental based on where their bodies are at. I think had we coupled that session with an hour and 45-minute practice, that would have signaled something a little different. But to us, that was practice. So we just decided to use the time that way. I don't think it necessarily indicates anything.
Similarly, Cody had mentioned that you guys watched the whole game today, rather than just picking out some clips here and
I
there.
appreciate Cody sharing.
How normal is that, right? Like, then, is that just based on the time right now that you guys have?
Yeah, we wanted to make sure that we went through the whole thing. Because I think when coaches make edits and we package things into different buckets, context can be lost. It's like, no, this shot wasn't good, not just because we don't like the shot, but we don't like the shot based on the last 2 possessions were turnovers and sloppy, and like we haven't made them guard for 3 minutes now. This play defensively in transition with Buddy Hield is unacceptable always. It's even more unacceptable because he's just made 2 in a row. This is the 3rd one. Like, we're not recognizing what's going on. And so when you watch the game in flow, the guys can see and feel how a game can get away from you. And, oh man, like, we do need to execute in those moments. Or, wow, I do need to have the recognition that, like, Buddy Hield has hit 2. They're looking for him to get the 3rd one. So there's times where we'll watch large stretches of the game. Sometimes it's a quarter, a half. Because I do think that the flow, especially with young players, can help their understanding of maybe why this is so good or so bad. Because edits just don't have context. Edits are great for teaching a specific concept because you can strip out all the noise and say, hey, this is on offense, this is how we attack top lock. Here's 6 examples from last night, all the reads and why. And it's great because then we can go to a breakdown on the court and really get into like that one thing. But when you're talking about the bigger themes that we're trying to attack today of competitiveness and body language and urgency, keeping our composure, all those things, those come out when you watch the game in flow. It would be hard to put together. I guess in theory you could put together an edit of body language, but it doesn't register the same as it does when you watch the game and you feel it kind of slipping away.
Thank you, Will.
Appreciate it.
Well, Cody, it seemed like a lengthy film session. Could you just kind of take us through what happened this morning?
We just watched the entire game and then broke down each play, each clip, and then went from there. Kind of more like an open discussion instead of just, Will yelling at us for what we did wrong. It was kind of just what we see and then kind of how we can fix it.
What sort of stood out to you?
Just the urgency and physicality, especially like you watch the game. They're kind of able to take us out of our offense just by the way they're pushing and shoving, using their hands. So it was like, especially being a young team, we're not going to get calls like that. So I think just learning how to be more physical and, being assertive, setting the hard screens, getting people open, having a sense of urgency on defense, that's kind of like the biggest things.
How does that differ from just like a normal film session?
I mean, each film session is different because each game is different. So I'd say, depending on what we need, where this is a film session where we did a lot of things poorly and that we need to correct. But say we have a better game and there's less things to correct, the film session will be shorter. So it's just each film session is different just because each game is different.
You guys watched this all of last night's game. Was there anything from the first game that carried over into the second game too? That was kind of a trend that you guys went over to as well.
Transition for sure, especially like that sense of urgency to get back. I think taking away those easy transition buckets is kind of going to help us in the long run. It is kind of demoralizing too when you're just getting back-to-back layups in transition, not getting touched and scoring. So I think that's kind of a trend we're seeing, and that's kind of what he, corrected in the film.
When you watch yourself individually in those film sessions, what are you noticing about things you can improve on?
I think just physicality and a little bit of urgency, especially being a younger player. I'm already at a disadvantage. I'm always going to be guarding guys, bigger, stronger. So I think for me, just being more physical and getting into the body first will kind of help me. So I was watching that film session. That's just kind of something that stuck out.
Great.
Thanks, Cody.